Good afternoon, boys and girls. Myself, Dr. Ramesh Chandra. I'll be taking alpha receptors blockers for you today. And then before we start, so alpha adrenergic blockers. So we all know what are the alpha adrenergic system comprised of and what are the neurotransmitters which are released and so on and so forth. So today we'll be learning about the blockers of adrenergic system. So namely we have alpha and beta receptors. They are, and we'll be learning about the drugs which block them. But today I'll be teaching you about alpha adrenergic blockers. Alpha adrenergic blockers. These drugs inhibit adrenergic responses which are mediated through the alpha adrenergic receptors without affecting those mediated through beta receptors. So these drugs basically inhibit adrenergic responses which act through alpha adrenergic receptors, but they do not have any impact or action on those beta receptors. So these drugs are otherwise called as antagonists or alpha blockers or antagonists because they block the effects of, because they block the effects of endogenous agonists like epinephrine and norepinephrine. As such, they do not have any intrinsic activity, but do produce some pharmacological changes. So they're basically called as antagonists. They block the effects of endogenous agonists like epinephrine or norepinephrine or adrenaline or noradrenaline. As such, they do not have any intrinsic activity, but they do produce some, or they cause some pharmacological changes. So now let's see their locations, characteristics, so on and so forth. So they are divided into two types, alpha 1 and alpha 2. And again, alpha 1 is divided into subtypes like alpha 1A, 1B, and 1D. They are situated postsynaptically, mainly in the radial muscle of the eye and GIT sphincters. Apart from that, they are also located in the smooth muscles of prostate as well as bladder, and then in the heart. These effects, they cause these effects like vasoconstriction, mydriasis, increased force of contraction. And then alpha 2, they are again divided. They have got subtypes like alpha 2A, 2B, and 2C. They are located presynaptically as well as postsynaptically, mainly in the beta cells of pancreas, some vascular smooth muscles. Apart from that, they are also located in the brain, that is central nervous system. And these are the pharmacological effects. As you can see here, they inhibit the release of transmitters or the inhibition of transmitter release. They inhibit central sympathetic outflow from the periphery. They cause inhibition of insulin release as well. They inhibit lipolysis. So these are their location, types of receptors and their subtypes and their pharmacological effects. So in a nutshell, there are two types, alpha 1 and alpha 2. Alpha 1 is again subdivided into alpha 1A, 1B, and 1D. On the other hand, alpha 2 is subdivided into three types, alpha 2A, 2B, and 2C. Alpha 1 is situated postsynaptically on the vascular smooth muscle, liver, and uterus. And then alpha 2, it is situated presynaptical and postsynaptical in the neuronal endings, and then vessels in brain tissue, postsynaptic vessels as well as in brain tissue. So this is the types of alpha receptors, their location, and their characteristics we have seen. They are alpha 1 and alpha 2, and they are subdivided into alpha 1A subdivided into three types, 1A, 1B, and 1D, and then alpha 2 subdivided into alpha 2A, 2B, and 2C. Now let's see their classification. How are they classified? So basing on their selectivity, these adrenergic blockers are divided into three types. Non-selective alpha adrenergic blockers, so which non-selectively bind to alpha 1 or 2, or which selectively block alpha 1 receptors, and then we selectively block alpha 2A receptors. So non-selective alpha adrenergic blockers are So they are again subdivided into three types. Beta haloalkylamines, example, dibenamine and phenoxybenzamine. And then B, natural and hydrogenated ergoate alkaloids. And then we have imidazoline derivatives like drugs like tolazoline as well as phentolamine. Now let's see the drugs which only block alpha receptors. So they are prazosin, terazosin, doxazosin, celadosin, indoramine, tamsulosin, and then last but not least, alphazosin. And then we have drugs which only selectively block alpha-2 receptors. Example, yohimbine. Well, let's see their structure. So if at all you want to score more marks, if at all you draw the structures, they'll help you a lot. It will have an impact on the examiner and you can score more marks. So if at all you want, you can draw these structures in the examination as well. Let's see the drugs in detail, different drugs in detail. Phenoxybenzamine, so mechanism of action. So it covalently binds to alpha-1 and alpha-2 receptors, causing irreversible blockade of these receptors. It also inhibits the reuptake of noradrenaline by adrenergic nerve terminals. In effective doses, phenoxybenzamine causes orthostatic hypotension due to alpha-1 blockade in the blood vessels. So this drug phenoxybenzamine, it covalently binds to both alpha-1 and alpha-2 receptors, thereby causing irreversible blockade of these receptors. Apart from this, it also inhibits the reuptake of noradrenaline by adrenergic nervous terminals. In effective doses, this drug phenoxybenzamine causes orthostatic hypotension. This is attributed due to the blockade of alpha-1 receptors in the blood vessels. Apart from that, they also cause reflex tachycardia, and then they evoke Dale's vasomotor reversal. It also antagonizes the actions of acetylcholine, histamine, as well as 5-HT. So we have learned in detail about Dale's vasomotor reversal in our previous class. Well, let us brush it once again. So as you can see in the picture, you have got A, B, and C graphs, and then A graph, it demonstrates the biphasic response. That is, you treat with epinephrine, you have a rise in blood pressure. So the rise in blood pressure is, systolic blood pressure is more than diastolic blood pressure. This is mainly attributed due to the action of alpha-1 receptors. So after some time, the plasma concentration of epinephrine decreases. So the beta effects, beta-2, they, even with small dose of epinephrine, they have action and there is fall in blood pressure. So this is called, initially there is rise in blood pressure and then fall in blood pressure. This is called as biphasic response. In the second picture, you treat with the alpha blocker and then with an epinephrine. So what happens? So alpha receptors are blocked. So there is fall in blood pressure because of the action of beta-2. And then you treat with a beta blocker. And then epinephrine, what happens? Beta-2 receptors are blocked. So there is unopposed action of alpha-1. And then you see a rise in blood pressure. So this is all Dale's vasomotor reversal phenomenon, biphasic response, and then this is treated with alpha blocker and epinephrine. So this is called as Dale's vasomotor reversal. Well, so let's see the pharmacokinetics. So oral absorption is irregular. I mean, the drug is not relevantly absorbed when given orally. And then the drug may produce irritation upon administration by either subcutaneous or by IM, and hence should be given orally. High lipid solubility and tends to accumulate in the body. So this drug is mainly a lipid soluble agent and hence tends to accumulate in the fat. And approximately 50% of the IV dose is excreted within 12 hours. And there is 80% excretion within next 24 hours. Well, adverse reactions, here you have chain of reactions. They may cause palpitations, giddiness. Apart from that, they may also cause postural hypertension, meiosis, dryness of mouth, nasal stuffiness. And then there is inhibition of ejaculation. Large dose may produce nausea, vomiting. There is increased excitability, and then some patients have reported even convulsions also. There may be cumulative toxicity because they are lipid soluble, and hence they tend to accumulate in the body fat, and there is high possibility of cumulative toxicity. So preparation and dosage, they're available as 10 mg capsules. The daily usual maintenance to be given is 20 to 60 mg. Ergoid alkaloids. They are natural ergot alkaloids. They're usually found in spoiled rye, like in a case of spoiled rye, like fungus, and they cause abortions, gangrene, and then convulsions. The natural amino acid alkaloids, ergotamine and ergotoxin, are partial agonists and antagonists at alpha adrenergic, serotonergic, as well as dopaminergic receptors. So these drugs, natural ergot alkaloids, that are usually used for causing abortions. They also cause gangrene as well as convulsions. Ergotoxin is more potent alpha blocker and is less potent vasoconstrictor than ergotamine. They interact with serotonin as well as dopamine receptors also. Dihydrogenated ergot alkaloids. So hydrogenation of these ergot alkaloids reduces vasoconstriction and increases alpha blocking activity and usually reduce blood pressure. So what happens when you hydrogenate these ergot alkaloids? They have a property of vasoconstriction. So whenever there is they reduce vasoconstriction, and then when there is increased alpha blocking property, usually you tend to have falling blood pressure. This is because attributed due to the combination action of alpha blockade as well as depression of the vasomotor center. The alpha blockade produced by ergot alkaloids is low grade and clinically is of not much use. So these drugs, as such, they are used in general for hypertension treatment. So the alpha blockade produced by these ergot alkaloids is of low grade. It's of not much. I mean, you may not have a promised results, and hence these are not used clinically. This principle, they are mainly used in the treatment of migraine, and hydroergotoxin has been used as a cognition enhancer. Well, let's see the pharmacokinetics. Only absorbed on oral administration, and apart from that, a total parenteral dose is degraded in the body. So a part of the total parenteral dose is degraded in the body. So have got some adverse effects, mainly you see nausea, vomiting, as well as meiosis, and then they do cause postural hypotension. Natural alkaloids on prolonged administration may produce paresthesia. Hence, one should be vigilant while administering these drugs for a longer period. Apart from that, they also cause tingling as well as numbness. Imidazoline derivatives, tolazoline and then phentolamine. These drugs are competitive antagonists of alpha adrenergic receptors. So they mainly block the alpha adrenergic receptors, that is mainly alpha 1 and alpha 2. And as such, they do not have similar affinities for alpha 1 and alpha 2 receptors. They do have similar affinities. So these are completely block alpha adrenergic receptors, and they have similar affinities, means they act equally on alpha 1 as well as alpha 2 receptors. They also increase the force of myocardial contraction. They dilate the peripheral blood vessels, particularly the arterioles and capillaries of the skin, and increase the gut motility as well as gastric secretion. So they have similar affinities on alpha 1 and alpha 2 receptors. They increase the force of myocardial contraction. they dilate the peripheral blood vessels, particularly particularly the arterioles and capillaries of the skin, and they increase the gut motility and gastric secretion. They also increase the salivary, lacrimal, respiratory, as well as pancreatic secretions. They also exhibit mild anti-phagestic activity. Tolozolin is a partial alpha-1 agonist and often causes mild rise in blood pressure. Phentolamine usually produces a moderate blood fall in BP due to peripheral vasodilatation. Pharmacokinetics. Tolozolin is well absorbed on oral as well as parenteral route of administration and is mainly eliminated unchanged in urine. Phentolamine is poorly absorbed whenever it is given by oral administration. On oral administration, the absorption of phentolamine is poor and erratic. Approximately one-tenth of its total parenteral dose is eliminated in urine, and the rest is probably metabolized. So tolozolin is well absorbed on oral and parenteral administration. And are mainly eliminated unchanged in urine. Phentolamine, on the other hand, is poorly absorbed on oral administration. Approximately one-tenth of its total parenteral dose is eliminated. That is, phentolamine, one-tenth of its total parenteral dose is eliminated in urine, and the rest is probably metabolized. Let's see the adverse reactions of these two drugs. These include palpitations, flushing, apprehension, coldness, postural hypertension, nausea, vomiting, and apart from that, they cause epigastric distress as well as diarrhea. Excessive dose of tolozolin may produce profuse sweating. The available preparations and dosage are phentolamine mesylate injection 5 mg per ml. And then prazosin. So how do they act? How does the drug prazosin act? Let's see the mechanism of action of prazosin. They act by selectively blocking postsynaptic alpha receptors, or they are alpha receptor blockers. Thus, it dilates the arteries and they cause lowering of blood pressure and the veins, reducing the venous return as well as cardiac output. Reduce the tone of internal sphincter of the bladder, thus decreasing resistance to urine outflow and hence used in patients with benign prostatic hyperplasia. So they act selectively by blocking postsynaptic alpha receptors. They dilate the arteries as well as veins. They reduce the tone of internal sphincter of the bladder, thus decreasing resistance to urinary outflow in patients with benign prostatic hyperplasia. It does not cause tachycardia as it does not block presynaptic alpha-2 receptors. Has got short duration of action, may act in the CNS to suppress sympathetic outflow. Favorable effects on serum lipids, thereby decreasing LDL and triglycerides while increasing concentration of HDL. They do improve glucose metabolism. First dose effect. So first dose should always be given in a lower dose, should not be more than 0.5 mg or less, and should be taken on retiring it to bed at night to prevent palpitations, postural hypotension, and collapse following the first dose. So these are generally seen with these drugs. So prazosin, the drug prazosin causes marked postural hypotension with initial first few doses. So whenever you administer this drug, you need to give the dose in a lower form, or lower dose should be administered. So this is because there is impairment of the compensatory vasoconstricting response in the peripheral blood vessels. So the reason why we need to give initial few doses in low doses. So first few doses should be 0.5 mg or less and should be taken on retiring to bed at night so as to prevent palpitations and then to prevent postural hypertension and collapsing of the patient following the first dose. So this is called as first dose effect. Let's see the pharmacokinetics. Well, they are observed well absorbed after oral administration. And then you have got very good bioavailability, that is 50 to 70% of the drug is available after oral administration. These drugs or this drug is tightly bound to plasma proteins, primarily to alpha-1 acid glycoprotein. And then free drug which is available is only 5%. This drug is extensively metabolized in the liver and has got a plasma half-life of 2 to 3 hours. So the dosage available is initially you need to start with 1 mg and then can be titrated up to 20 mg. So in the treatment of BPH, the dosage to be given is 1 to 5 mg. Well, let's see the adverse effects of this drug. As such, they cause marked postal hypotension. The reason being attributed due to first dose phenomena, and then they cause impotence also, nasal congestion, and sometimes they cause GIT upset also. Terazosin. It's a selective alpha-1 adrenergic blocker, has got or less potent than prazosin, has got less action as much when compared to prazosin, does not discriminate among alpha-1A, 1B and 1D receptors, has got equal action on 1A, 1B and 1D receptors, more soluble water than prazosin, and has got a high bioavailability of 90%, more than 90%. It's a long-acting drug and has got a plasma half-life of 12 hours. So hence, only 1 mg of dose has to be administered at bedtime and is mainly used in the treatment of benign prostatic hyperplasia. Tamsulosin. So they act more selectively on prostatic 1A and 1D receptors and then has got a half-life of 5 to 10 hours, extensively metabolized by cytochrome system, may cause abnormal ejaculation and used for benign prostatic hyperplasia. So unlike its friends, it does not have got action on 1B, but preferably it acts on 1A and 1D receptors. And it has got a plasma of 5 to 10 hours and is metabolized by cytochrome system. May cause abnormal ejaculation and mainly used in the treatment of benign prostatic hyperplasia. Silodosin. Act more selective on 1A and used for treatment of benign prostatic hyperplasia. Alfuzosin. It is a congener of prazosin, orally effective, but has got short action and is primarily metabolized by the liver. Has got a bioavailability of 64% and has half-life of 3 to 5 hours. So hence the drug should be avoided in patients having hepatic impairment. So the drug has to be avoided in patients having hepatic impairment. Dosage 2.5 mg, that is BD to QID, twice daily to 4 times or 10 mg as extended release tablets. Yohimbine. It is a natural alkaloid obtained from Pocinstalia yohimbine. It is a competitive alpha-2 receptor antagonist. So as such, this does not have any action on alpha-1 receptors. It competitively blocks alpha-2 receptors. Being lipid soluble, it crosses blood-brain barrier. It has got 5-HT antagonist action as well. And it has got a shorter duration of action. So whenever the drug is given orally, it increases sympathetic outflow and hence potentiates the release of noradrenaline. Has got no established clinical role. As such, this drug has got no role at all. So not much used clinically and hence not there in the market. Well, let's see the therapeutic uses. So mainly these drugs are used in hypertension as well as pheochromocytoma. Drugs like phentolamine are used in the diagnosis of pheochromocytoma. Phenoxybenzamide is used in the long-term treatment of long-term management of pheochromocytoma. And then they are mainly used in the treatment of peripheral vascular disease. The drug phentolamine, it increases blood flow to skins and muscles. It's mainly used in the treatment of peripheral vascular disease. And then they are also used to treat or to prevent dermal necrosis. Phentolamine infiltrated in the dose of 2.5 mg to 5 mg prevents cutaneous necrosis due to extravasation of noradrenaline. Apart from that, they are also used in treatment of BPH, benign prostatic hypertension. Drugs like prazosin, tamsulosin, silodosin, all these are used in the treatment of BPH. Scorpion sting. They are also used in the treatment of scorpion sting, mainly prazosin. They are also used in treatment of erectile dysfunction, example, yohimbine. And they are used to treat hypertensive crisis that follows abrupt withdrawal of clonidine. So these are a couple of therapeutic uses of these drugs, alpha adrenergic blockers or alpha receptor blockers. Thank you. So we have learned about what are the types of alpha receptors, where are they located. They are mainly alpha 1 and alpha 1 and alpha 2. Alpha 1 is again subdivided into 1A, 1B and 1C, whereas alpha 1A, 1B and 1D, whereas alpha 2, 2A, 2B and 2C. And we have seen their location and their pharmacological effects as well. And apart from that, we have learned about the classification. How are they classified? So mainly classified on their selectivity. That is, they're divided into non-selective alpha adrenergic blockers, selective alpha adrenergic blockers, and selective alpha 2 adrenergic blockers. And we have learned about different drugs, what their mechanism of action, and then therapeutic uses, pharmacological actions. And then we have learned about alpha 1 adrenergic blockers, their actions also. So that concludes the class. If you have any doubts, you can get back to me on my mobile number. Thank you.